Hi, I'm Sam. In this video, I'm going to explain how Planeswalker cards work. Counting the new one in Conflux, only 10 Planeswalkers have been printed so far, but they're exciting and powerful and definitely worth getting to know. Oh, and the new one that's in this set? He's just kind of the most evil villain in existence. Introducing Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. There's a lot to process here, so we'll be revisiting him from time to time. Planeswalkers are powerful allies you can call on to fight on your side. The rules for playing a Planeswalker are the same as the rules for playing a creature or enchantment. You can do it only during your turn at the time you could play a sorcery. The spell can be countered. If a Planeswalker spell resolves, it comes into play under your control. A Planeswalker is a permanent. Planeswalkers aren't creatures. If a card says that it affects a creature, like Persuasion does, it won't affect a Planeswalker. But Planeswalkers are permanents. If a spell or ability says it affects a permanent, like Confiscate does, it can affect a Planeswalker. Each Planeswalker has a subtype. Nicol Bolas Planeswalker's subtype is Bolas. These subtypes are also called Planeswalker types. Planeswalker types aren't creature types. They're a separate list. Note that Nicol Bolas Planeswalker is not a dragon. When Nicol Bolas ascended to be a Planeswalker, he went way beyond being a mere creature. He may have the body of a dragon, but he hasn't truly been a dragon for millennia. If two or more Planeswalkers that share a subtype are ever in play at the same time, they're immediately put into their owners' graveyards. They don't have to be the same card, they just have to have the same Planeswalker type. A Johnny Goldmane and a Johnny Vengeant are different versions of the same Planeswalker character, so they both have the subtype a Johnny. If they're both in play at the same time, away they go. Loyalty is a characteristic only Planeswalkers have. Each Planeswalker has a loyalty number printed in the lower right corner of the card. While a Planeswalker is in play, its loyalty will go up and down. You'll keep track of this by using loyalty counters. A Planeswalker comes into play with a number of loyalty counters on it equal to its loyalty number. While a Planeswalker is in play, its loyalty is equal to the number of loyalty counters on it, and its printed loyalty is ignored. If you play an ability of a Planeswalker, its loyalty can go up or down. Damage dealt to a Planeswalker results in that many loyalty counters being removed from it. If a Planeswalker's loyalty is 0, it's immediately put into its owner's graveyard. It can't be regenerated. Each Planeswalker has a set of activated abilities. These abilities have restrictions that aren't spelled out on the card. In addition, their costs appear in a format you won't find on any other card. Let's look at the costs first. The cost to play a Planeswalker's ability is represented by an arrow with a number inside. Up arrows contain positive numbers. This first symbol means put 3 loyalty counters on this Planeswalker. If you play this ability, Nicol Bolas' loyalty actually increases. Down arrows contain negative numbers. This second symbol means remove 2 loyalty counters from this Planeswalker. And this symbol means remove 9 loyalty counters from this Planeswalker. You can't play a Planeswalker's ability that has a negative loyalty cost unless the Planeswalker has at least that many loyalty counters on it. That means, if you want to use Nicol Bolas' -9 ability, you'll need to use its +3 ability a couple of times to pump up its loyalty first. These abilities are pretty powerful, so there are limits to when you can play them and how often. Unlike most activated abilities, you can't play these whenever you want. For example, you can't play one during combat. You can play an ability of a Planeswalker you control only during your turn at the time you could play a sorcery. You may play a Planeswalker's ability the turn it enters play. However, you may not play a Planeswalker's ability if any of its abilities have been played already that turn. In other words, you're limited to one ability from each of your Planeswalkers each turn. Planeswalkers aren't creatures, so they can't attack or block. However, Planeswalkers can be attacked by creatures. Let's say you control Nicol Bolas Planeswalker and it's your opponent's combat phase. As he declares attackers, he announces who or what each of those creatures is attacking, you or your Planeswalker. All the attacking creatures may attack the same thing or they may attack different things. If you control more than one Planeswalker, any or all of them can be attacked during the same combat phase. When it's time for you to declare blockers, you can block the attacking creatures as normal. It doesn't matter who or what they're attacking. During the combat damage step, damage dealt to creatures or players behaves as normal. Damage dealt to a Planeswalker, however, causes that many loyalty counters to be removed from it. Planeswalkers, like players, don't deal combat damage. In a two-headed giant game, an attacking creature can attack the defending team or a Planeswalker controlled by either member of that team. That creature can be blocked by creatures controlled by either member of the defending team, no matter what it's attacking. If a creature with trample is attacking your Planeswalker and is blocked, the attacker must assign lethal damage to each blocker and may assign excess damage to the Planeswalker. However, that creature can't trample over the Planeswalker and assign any damage to you. This is an unusual case, but let's look at what happens if a Planeswalker leaves play in the middle of combat. Let's say your Planeswalker is being attacked, and then it leaves play or changes controllers. At that point, the Planeswalker is removed from combat, but the attacking creature isn't. It continues to attack, and it can be blocked. If it was blocked, it would deal its combat damage to the blocking creature as normal. If it wasn't blocked, it wouldn't deal any damage to anything. You've seen how creatures can deal combat damage to Planeswalkers. It turns out that non-combat damage can hurt them too. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent, you may have that source deal that damage to a Planeswalker that opponent controls instead. Let's take Shock as an example. Shock can't target a Planeswalker because it has to target a creature or a player. However, if you target your opponent with Shock, then, as it resolves, you can choose to have it deal its 2 damage to your opponent's Nicol Bolas. If you do, 2 loyalty counters are removed from it. You can't split the damage between a player and a Planeswalker. In the Shock example, you either have to have Shock deal 2 damage to your opponent or 2 damage to his Planeswalker. You can't have it deal 1 damage to each. Dealing damage to a Planeswalker like this is a redirection effect, and it interacts with other prevention and redirection effects accordingly. Let's try that Shock again. This time, your opponent plays Bandage to prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to him. When Shock resolves, your opponent can apply Bandage's prevention effect first, reducing the Shock damage to 1 before you decide whether or not to deal that damage to his Planeswalker. Redirecting damage to a Planeswalker works only if you're dealing that damage to an opponent. If you wind up dealing damage to yourself, perhaps by playing a spell like Earthquake, you can't have your own Planeswalker take that bullet for you. They're not that loyal. One last thing. This kind of damage redirection can be used on damage dealt by creatures, such as Prodigal Pyromancer's ping ability. It just can't be used on combat damage that your creature would deal to an opponent. If you want your creature to deal combat damage to a Planeswalker, you've got to attack it. And those are the ins and outs of Planeswalkers. It's a lot to grasp at once, but once you play with them, you'll get the hang of it quickly. These are powerful cards that do amazing things. Have fun with them.